in some respects. Not sure what they get in terms of revenue from it, but I do tend to agree it does unbalance the season, and if you get a particularly tough draw in that magic weekend, that can impact where points are at a premium, where if 2 points is, for argument's sake, 20% of what you're expecting to attain in terms of points that season, that's a big percentage of your total points that could be impacted by your appearance there. So, on the balance of all things considered, I think it's a good thing for the sport, and I don't think it's run its course. But if I was running a rugby league club, I wouldn't be its biggest fan.
Right, yeah. The imbalance of fixtures didn't matter in licensing so much, I felt, because the competition's ultimately decided by a playoff structure. With promotion and relegation, if it was pure one up, one down, it would be more of an issue. But again, it's decided through a playoff structure.
Yeah.
So it's not... So the imbalance of fixtures in the last two incarnations of how the league's run, not massive factors for me, but I would prefer it to be consumed into the league as it's normally ran, if that was possible. I wouldn't want to get rid of the weekend, and I don't think it's ran its course. It's still very popular. There's still different places bidding for the competition. I agree with you. We had that nines that ran in a summer there where it was basically fringe players and academy players were put out. Wigan won it, didn't they? I think George Williams was a young kid at the time and was inspirational at Headingley in the final, and
we saw some good players there playing. Jack Cameron, watching Jack Hughes turn out for you lot and all sorts. Yeah, there was some good
in the very early
there,
days of his career. But that was what it was. It was basically, backup players and young players.
Yeah.
There was the nines that ran for I think only 1 year properly, alongside the Northern Rail Cup final weekend, which obviously has gone from the calendar too, and that was relatively poorly attended, and that covered the Championship and Championship 1 as it was at the time. Do you remember the Blackpool Panthers won the final at Bloomfield Road? So everyone was down at Fylde, and all the round robin games happened over like the Saturday and the Sunday morning, and then we travelled up to Bloomfield Road for the Sunday afternoon to watch the Northern Rail Cup final, which had as a curtain raiser the final of the night competition.
I do recall that.
The Blackpool Panthers took it very seriously, but even at that stage, some of the Championship clubs didn't take it particularly seriously. There wasn't a big prize on offer. If you want clubs to take it seriously in the middle of the season, the only way is a big prize. You get a pretty decent prize for the NRL nines, and it fits in well with the calendar as a pre-season event, as a training run, as a skills session, which you can't do that in the middle of the season when players are carrying injuries anyway, and players are going to be required for long, for serious action coming up to win the major awards. So, I don't know. I don't think a nines competition is dead, but I'm not a massive nines fan. I'm a 13-a-side fan. I don't think... I am. I like it that the nines is the future because 2020 cricket was so popular.
No.
Is based on one important factor. 2020 cricket is popular because it shortens the game of cricket into one
manageable
evening's viewing of entertaining bish-bash stuff. Nines is a constant rotation of... It's more like the sevens tournaments that go on, and they're World Sevens tournaments, not like poorly supported Northern Rugby League clubs.
But what you also tend to get with sevens is that you get specialist sevens players. So this is lads who don't play full 15-a-side rugby union at the highest of levels, although I'm certain they compete very well. They are specialist sevenses.
Yeah, so the 2020 comparison to me doesn't work because you're not having it. It's like, let's go and watch a short game of the sport because no one's going to travel to go and watch like 1 or 2 nines games in a night. No one's going to want to do that. Whereas you go for a weekend for an event, but where I wouldn't see how it fits in a nice weekend within our calendar.
Yeah, we're because we're summer rugby, because of the way the seasons work up here in the Northern Hemisphere, there's just nowhere to fit it in and make it popular. You can't have it at the start. You can't have it on a rainy December or January day.
You can, but no one's going to go and watch it
because no one will go, and the pitches will be crap, and it'll be over as a concept within one iteration. So, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to see it, it just won't be profitable. Yeah, I agree. Brian Davies, 12.
I think the Tamalolo 10-year bit deal is a big risk. Presumably, the Cowboys are insured against injury, but not loss of form. We talked about that last week, didn't we? But I agree, there is a risk element there.
There is a risk. I don't think it's a big risk. Look, I mean, Jason Tamalolo could pick up an injury and then lose form. But they're putting their money behind a very established, consistent player. It's not like it's like if they'd awarded a 10-year deal to what's the boy called, the halfback, the kid that's going to go to Newcastle for megabucks.
Kalen Ponga.
If you give Kalen Ponga a 10-year deal, maybe I think that's a bigger risk than Tamalolo.
Yeah, but we don't know how the contract's structured, do we? And that's what Brian's sort of alluding to there.
Well, it
and
might be backloaded, wouldn't
the
it?
Cowboys will have insured themselves somewhat against injury. No, I think it'll be staggered. So I think there'll be a lot of options built into that. Into that 10-year contract,
right.
But the headline of 10 years sounds impressive. If you look at the NFL, a lot of times contracts are announced as like 7-year, $70 million deals, but then there'll be caveats about it, like $20 million is guaranteed. The team can release him with no extra cost after 3 years.
I see.
They can release him with penalties after 2. So it's almost like a series of 1-year contracts,
right, with different things
with
attached
different penalties attached to them if either party severs a deal.
So it would be interesting to see what those were and if they exist in the time.
Whereas the headline will still always be, star QB signs to 7-year, $100 million. Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. No, I'm absolutely with you. Absolutely.
David Powell at St. David 2911, he says, Savelio, trust me, it's not his defence that's the problem, it's his attitude off the field, Billy Big Bollocks.
Okay, I'll take your point because it's something that people have said before about Andre Savelio, but his attitude off the field has been a bit cocky, shouldn't impact what he's doing on the field, which is why I think we were critical of his defensive performance. He could be the cocky.
No, we were questioning if it was poor defence that was holding him back. We weren't necessarily sure.
I think he could be poor defensively and be John Pete.
I'm surprised if his attitude is as much of a problem now as it might have been, one, when he was a little bit younger, and two, when he was playing at the club that wasn't his boyhood club, and he was playing on a longer term deal. He's on a 1-year contract. He's on a prove it deal at the club that he supported as a kid. You'd think he'd be.
That's true.
So if he's not got his attitude right, then that is a big red flag for anyone who wants to sign him in the future.
That is very true indeed.
Tim Griffiths at Tim G Radio said, #now then lads, don't diss the Stanley, I saw him first.
Hey, no one's dissing Stanley G. No, far from it. He's one of my cult favourites.
Fatboy Rob said, Eden won't beat the Snake's record as long as he's on Shenton's side. Keeps overrunning him. P.S. Tom's new bird is fit. Clap.
I'm sure she'll appreciate the turn of phrase there.
I think Rob also got in touch on Facebook, didn't he?
Yeah, he's very keen to point out that I'm punching. It seems to have been the prevailing wisdom. I will point out that she disagrees.
She's deluded there. Frogmore.
She's blinded by love, Marcus. Said, he will beat the Snake's record.
Well, he's not doing too bad. He didn't score this week for the first time, though. Frogmore gets in touch, says, #now then, lads. That's catching on, Thomas. Regarding what to do and the knowledge I hold, what I do and the knowledge I hold, I'm an electrical technician. I diagnose electrical appliances and cure the faults. I'm practically a doctor. Winky face.
Yes, very good. In the way that Dr. Pepper is practically a doctor. Very good. But cheers, Froggers. Thank you, mate.
Paul Michael Craig gets in touch as well to say, on last week's pod you guys agreed that the DW has no atmosphere. Which ground would you say has the best? And he copied Brian Davies into that because obviously he's our international explorer of all rugby league stadiums. So I'll give Brian's reply first, and we have one from Paul Ludo Lewis too. So Brian says, I'd say Headingley followed by Cass. Going to Headingley always feels special, whether for Super League internationals or nines. Then Ludo says, at most grounds the away fans make the atmosphere. Leeds are different though. 100% Headingley has the best atmosphere. What say you?
I like it at Headingley. I've stood in the South Stand as well and heard it all under that roof and heard it going off. So that is, they do create a good atmosphere there. I like Cass. I do like Cass. I like it when it's full and they're making a lot of noise too. I tend to agree with those two. Really. The newest stadiums just tend to be a bit soulless for my money.
Do you know what? I would say it's all influenced on crowd size, and they both point Henley out, and I think it's largely because, one, the South Stand does create something with the way it's sort of penned in. I wonder how well they're going to recreate that when it's a bit taller, but let's hope they do, and we really want them to be able to.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, there's always 15,000 on.
Yeah.
Well, certainly there is over the last 10 years. If you go and ask this question sort of 15 to 20 years ago, you'd probably have said Odsal because there was always 15,000 on.
And the atmosphere at Odsal, when it was full and jumping, was always phenomenal.
Do you see what I mean? And I actually think the best atmospheres I've ever been in have also been at the DW Stadium. So when we're playing against like Catalan on a Sunday afternoon, the atmosphere will be shy. But But or even many other teams, Huddersfield, London, sometimes teams like Salford or what have you. But when we're playing Saints on Good Friday, it's
bouncing,
and there's 25,000 on, which is the record in Super League for a regular season game, or even 20,000 on, which is about the average for a Good Friday game at Wigan.
Yeah,
the chair's squeaking. I don't know what's going on.
I know, I don't either. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, and the World Club Challenge game. How great was the atmosphere there? And there wasn't really an away fan.
There was tremendous away support.
But you know what I mean?
Cult away following. I know exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Similarly, when we went to Bradford against St Helens at the
at Langtree,
totally wicked as it is now. How dire was the atmosphere then?
Atrocious.
But when I've been there with 17,800 capacities on for Wigan Saints derbies, it's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So that's why Headingley sits so much with us so well, because it's got the tradition, it's got the noise from the South Stand, and it's got the people there all the time anyway, which is great. So I think my uncle Pat went to the game with us on Friday, and he was like, "Oh, I hate Headingley, it's rubbish, isn't it?" And I was like,
"What?"
Because it's like, we're stood on an open terrace.
Well, yeah.
But I was like, no, it's not. It's a fantastic stadium to come to. I love coming to Headingley. I love going everywhere, really.
Yeah.
But I love coming to Headingley.
Headingley's a good place. I like night games at Headingley.
Yeah.
It always has a soft spot for me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Whether I'm open to the elements or not, it doesn't matter to me.
No, just get a 2-pint.
Yeah.
You ever notice?
There you go.
Absolutely.
So that's our...
In fact, I think the last time we were at Headingley together was for World Club Series a year or so ago. It wasn't just 2-pint pints that were getting passed around that night, was it? Like, you kept getting a whiff of the devil's lettuce from some ne'er-do-well down in front of us. So you can have fun on that open terrace at Headingley, by all accounts.
Paul Michael Craig in touch again says, is there agreement in the Sky deal that every club has to get shown on TV? Huddersfield have only been shown once in 2017.
Yeah, quota filled. Moving on. You're a terrible team to watch.
I'm not sure I had a look to see if there's any rules I could see. They're on in week 12 and week 13, so there you go. And then they'll have the Catalan game, and then if they've got any spicy, interesting games towards the back end of the opening 23 rounds on a Friday night, then they'll get on TV.
Although I suspect you'll see a bit more of them in middle eight coverage.
I think they've got well, that's maybe where it might but no, I don't think I think every team has to be shown, but I don't think there's any rules on how many times, because Leeds and Warrington in particular are getting a lot of coverage this year. Wigan always tend to do quite well, and St Helens obviously, but they're the big ticket drawers, aren't they?
They are, unfortunately, yes, that's it. Not unfortunately, they are. Unfortunately for Huddersfield fans, that's true.
Bernard, again, says 7,412 in the 92,000 ANZ Stadium, and I thought Sky Sports was bad for the game in the UK. Get a load of Channel 9 and Fox vampires.
Right, you might know more about this than I do, but why do they play so many games in that massive stadium?
As I understand it, people can buy like a membership to the stadium and go to any game whichever club is on in the stadium.
Which does nothing for the atmosphere, does it? If you're not really invested in the team that you're watching.
I also think there's an element of they want the games to be in the modern, easy for broadcasting companies to be in, convenient, amenities for fans and clubs and the players for warmth and that sort of stuff. I think there's an element of wanting that to happen. Maybe there's some real dependence on covering the costs of such a big stadium to make sure it's maintained for the big events where it's filled with 80,000 people at Origin or what have you. But what always amazes, I don't know the real answer, and I don't know that it's TV or not, because I don't know what the market is like. So maybe the This Week in League guys would be better to help people out with that. But what does baffle me always is, considering it's so popular in the east coast states of Australia, the attendances, like they'll talk about 19,000 at Canberra being, wow, look at how much they've turned out in amazing numbers for the game, which is fair enough. We'd say it's amazing numbers here too, but it's
proportionally
fourth or fifth choice sort of sport in the hierarchy of things here. It's not in Australia.
No.
It's probably second behind cricket, and in the eastern states in particular, big stuff. And yet you don't see that many crowds over 20,000 other than say Brisbane.
It is anomalous, isn't it?
Yeah.
That there's such a massive TV deal, but it's not as attended proportionally, it's not as well attended as you would expect it to be.
I've always
See what
expected the
see what I'm
crowds to
getting
be
at?
bigger.